The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. And like always, I'm excited. I'm excited about my guests tonight. I have three guests here tonight. One is the Vice President of Authors Search for Action Takers Publishing. And before I bring them up, let me introduce you to Action Takers Publishing. Action Takers Publishers. That is the publishing company of the book Parenting, No Problem Parenting. And I don't know why I'm having a problem talking today, but I am going to bring up, but first let me show you the book. It's No Problem Parenting, and I have two of the authors and Sally Green, the publisher, here to represent. So I'm going to pull her up first. I'm going to pull this down first. And then I'm going to pull her up. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Vera, it's so great to be here.
I am so honored for you to be here. And rather than me take time to read bios, I'm going to give you a few minutes to share a little bit about your story and how it is that you got involved with Action Takers Publishing, and what is it that you love most about the work that you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, this all started for me during the pandemic. I woke up one morning and realized that I was a mess. I was so busy taking care of everybody else that I had neglected taking care of myself. And so I embarked on a journey of self-care that began with me raising my hand and writing a chapter in a collaboration book. I got the offer and I had no idea what a collaboration book even was. And so I started with the one book, and then I loved it so much that I joined another book. And what happened was the people that I met that were part of that book changed my life. What I did was the first book that I was part of was called One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success. And it was 150 of these highly successful entrepreneurs, coaches, actors and actresses in me. And I quickly realized that I was totally out of my element. And so what I did was one Saturday, I opened up the book and I went in and I Facebook friended all of the people in there. And one of the people that I connected with was this woman, Linda Sunshine West. And I started going to her mastermind class and I started hanging around on Zoom with her. We got to be really good friends, and she was putting together 2 collaboration books. I joined those 2 books, and within my first year of doing this, I was a 4-time international best-selling author, and I just loved doing it. And one of the times that I was working with her, I realized that she was a little bit stressed, and so I offered to help her because I'm pretty tech savvy. So I offered to help her maybe work on her website, do some graphics, talk to some of the authors that were in the book that were struggling to write their chapters. And so I just did this because she had done so much and she had become a good friend. And after we published 2 books, 8 days apart. They both became international best-selling books. She called me up about a week later and she said, I absolutely love doing this. I love doing this with you. Do you want to join together and create, and we'll call it Action Takers Publishing, because she was calling it Women Action Takers. We'll change the name to Action Takers Publishing, and we'll make it a business, and you and I will partner together and do it. And I was like, let's go. So we started, and this was just 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And since that time, we have published 24. Every single book has become an international best-selling book. 24 books total, including No Problem Parenting.
Congratulations. That is so awesome. But what were you doing before you got involved in writing and publishing? Because you made the comment that you felt, it sounded like you felt a little out of water or out of your element.
Well, I've always been a reader and a writer, but I have a cleaning company that my husband and I own. And I've been doing that for 20 something years. I worked as in computers for a long time. I have a degree in computer programming. But when my daughter was born, I started a house cleaning business and janitorial company. And I'd been doing that for 20 something years. So I always wanted to have my own business. I've always loved marketing and sales and that kind of stuff. But the book publishing was totally for me. But I love working with the authors. I love hearing their stories. I love speaking with people and getting their stories and helping them to write their stories and get their stories out of them and onto paper.
That is amazing. And, as you were sharing the work that you did before, and then you were talking about the other, as one might say, caliber of people that you connected with, you were just as great as they were, even with what it was you were doing.
Right.
You were just as great as they were. But I would imagine in the beginning, you were kind of looking at what they did and what you did and kind of comparing, which is what we do.
Right.
That's one of the things we do. We compare ourselves, and every single time we do, we always fall short. And so your greatness was just as great as their greatness. You just didn't realize it at that time, but now you know. Awesome.
Yeah, well, I've always done different things. I also do a lot of art. So I part of the I had started like a painting business, and I was doing that for a while too. So I've always worked and had 2 or 3 multiple businesses going on at the same time.
So fine art.
I did acrylic and watercolor paintings.
Oh wow! What's your medium? What do you like?
I love the acrylics.
Okay.
So that's but I've done a lot of watercolors too.
Okay. Do you do landscapes or portraits?
I do just kind of fun. I don't know if you can see behind me. I just I can't do it. Just kind of get some fun stuff,
Nice. Oh, I love them. That's wonderful.
I have some fun with it,
Are you doing anything with it now?
I teach at a couple retirement homes in the area, so I go in once a month and teach the acrylic paint.
Let's see, if I had not asked you, we would not have even known. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, Miss Kimberly, how are you today?
Yes, ma'am. That's me. I'm doing well. Thank you, Vera. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to have you here as well. And what I was
just going to say,
You were just going to say,
I'm super glad to be here. Thank you for having
okay.
me. It's an honor to be here.
Okay, read great minds, great minds. Okay,
Yes.
listen. What I would like for you to do is share a little bit about your story and what it is you're doing and what led you to your purpose and your passion right now. And what inspired you to become an author in No Problem Parenting?
Okay. All right. I think I can do that. Okay, so my name is Kimberly. I started Star Students as an alternative education business. A lot of people ask me why, like how I got into that, and how I ended up doing what I'm doing. So I never intended on any any of this. I didn't intend on opening my own business. I didn't intend on having a business. Um, I was kind of your typical child in terms of always being curious, always wanting to learn. But as I got older, I noticed that that wasn't a thing. A lot of other students, particularly when I got into teachers college and university, it was not something that was encouraged, particularly in the teachers college program that I was in. It wasn't encouraged to ask questions. It wasn't encouraged to look at other perspectives, shall I say, other than the frameworks that they were teaching from.
Say
And
what?
so, it's funny because everybody is surprised when I say that. Now, I can't speak to everybody's experience. I can only speak to mine, right? Um, but I was educated in a larger school. Like I went to school in Ontario. That's where my teacher's college degree is from, York University. Whoops, not to name any names.
That's
That was
okay.
definitely my experience. And from other teachers that I've talked to, that was certainly their experience as well. Um, so I actually graduated from Teachers College in April of 2020. So similar to Sally, in which 2020 brought a lot of changes. I was just supposed to be starting my career at that point as a public school teacher because that's what I went to school for. And that didn't happen. I looked around at the world. I looked around at the world of public teaching in particular, and I went, I'm just really not aligned with this. I'm just really not happy about where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 years of teachers college, and 4 years prior of post-secondary, I'd been in it for 6 years already, and I didn't see myself doing it for another 30. And being happy and being fulfilled and being able to lay my head on the pillow at night and know that I had done a good job. I just didn't see that happening. And so I decided that it was going to be something that I did on my own. I had the wonderful opportunity to sit and build a business and sit and learn things. I had that privilege to be able to do that. It was a lot of hard work. It continues to be a lot of hard work. But I had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to have that time to build Star Students.
Now, Star Students, is it a school or is it a daycare or what is Star Students?
So we are not a daycare. That's public school. We're not a daycare. We do have our own, I wouldn't call us a school, but we do have our own programs. So we run our own homeschooling programs
Okay.
for parents who have their children outside of the public system.
Okay.
For parents who have kids inside the system, we provide tutoring services.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And at least this way you're able, because I can't imagine how can a teacher be expected to allow their kids to be expressive and creative and speak their minds when you as a teacher couldn't do that or was not encouraged to do that? So kudos to you, Kimberly, for doing your own thing and for helping school parents and also tutoring those that are in public school or public school systems. I know that's a whole nother show. And I mean, it's just really sad what's happening in our school systems.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me pull up, last but not least, Miss Joy. How are you, Joy?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for putting this together this evening and inviting us to be here. This is just such a privilege to be here with you this evening. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to have you guys, especially at the last minute. So I am grateful, so grateful that you had the time to come. I'm honored to have you here. So, what I would like for you to do, Joy, is share with us some of your story. And what is your passion and your purpose? Why is it your passion and your purpose? And what drove you and inspired you to be a part of this book? And Kimberly, we didn't get to that question with you. So after Joy finishes, I'll come back to you to answer that question.
Well, my story started about 6, 8 years ago. And when I was going through my divorce, and I realized that I was really alone. I was going through a lot of emotional issues. My ex was having an affair with one of my girlfriends, and going through the system, the depression, and just unknowing what to do. I knew that there had to be a better way. There had to be a better process to help women through this pivotal but small stage of their lives. Once I was divorced, I went and got a yoga certification and started going through coaching and learning these tools to help other people. First, it was to help myself and my yoga students. And then I found this opportunity to help divorced women. So I took the time during COVID to really hone in the skills and to be able to bring my company out, the Divorce Confidant, so I can really help women through divorce, co-parenting, and find their way as single women, single moms, give them that confidence to be able to step out into this new phase of their life, because I just know how difficult it was for me. So when the opportunity with Jackie came available, we had been in a podcasting class together. I sat and I really thought about it. I thought, is this something, I deal with divorce. How can I craft a message in a parenting book? And so that was really my goal, was to help parents have conversations with their children during this divorce process that were authentic and real and age appropriate. So I feel like this was the next step for me. If you ask my ex-husband, he and I are actually pretty good friends at this point. He would be like, you're coaching, you're a yoga teacher, you travel, you've written a book, you're doing all of these things. He goes, I never would have thought that you would have done this when we were together. And it took getting divorced to get that confidence in myself to be able to do the things I'm doing. So that's what I love about these new opportunities.
That is wonderful. And being a divorcee myself with a similar experience, the infidelity and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't with a friend. It was just with anybody, really. I shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. Anyway, and I know that when you are in that type of environment, you lose your confidence, you lose your self-esteem, and oftentimes women don't feel comfortable stepping out because they don't feel the confidence to do it. And so kudos to you, one, for taking that step, two, for preparing yourself to help other women. You can't teach what you don't know, and you can't give what you don't have. And you had to go through in order to help women understand that when you are in a marriage that fails, because it could be a myriad of things, but when you're in a failed marriage, it really takes a toll on your life. It takes a toll on your confidence. I was married for 3 years, and it took 3 years to get back to me. And so I understand that whole situation. Now, Kimberly, I'm going to come back to you and ask you, what was it that inspired you to be a part of No Problem Parenting?
Well, originally, it was through the connection was through Jackie. And I found talking with her, there were a lot of similar concerns that we shared, and some different ones too, because Jackie is a parenting coach, right? And so she deals with a lot of the same sorts of problems that I see in the academic section. She would deal with them from the emotional section, right? Or the emotional perspective. And so I really found the camaraderie with her, um, in being able to talk with a colleague about these sorts of anxieties and these sorts of fears that a lot of children have. And so Jackie was the one who introduced me actually to Sally and to Linda. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to share, to be able to help parents, because that's really what we're about, is helping parents get to where they want to be. And with education, that sometimes becomes very difficult. So a lot of parents don't know where to start.
And yes, and a lot of parents are coming into parenting with their own unresolved issues and their own baggage. So what each of you are doing to help parents either through get through a divorce and then learn how to cope and communicate with their children about what's going on and still have some resemblance of a co-parenting situation that makes the child understand that you just because the marriage doesn't work does not mean that we don't love you, nor is it your fault, you know. And so I
Yes.
too met Jackie because I'm also one of the authors in this book, and I'm so proud to be a part of this book. I too am met her, and she was on my podcast, on my show, and I was also on hers. And we basically do similar things. I work with parents and their children individually and collectively. And so we just, oh man, she's just a beautiful, beautiful soul. And we became close, and she got me involved in the book. Speaking of the book, I'm going to show it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your chapters. And I would like to share the poem that starts my chapter. And so I'm going to pull the book up, and then let me pull up that poem and share it. And that will be the pivotal point of us getting started. The parent I choose to be. Parenting is not an easy thing to do. It takes courage, patience, and lots of prayer too. Having a child changes a life. Our goal should be lifting them to higher heights. Children see what we do and hear what we say. Sometimes our own issues can get in the way. We have no control how we might have been raised, good, bad, or indifferent. We can choose better ways. To develop our children to be their best, we may need to acknowledge and confess that there are things we may need to learn, allowing some attitudes and behaviors to crash and burn. We cannot teach what we do not know, seeking wisdom and guidance so we and our children can grow into what God intended us to be. It all begins at home and may improve our society. So my chapter basically talks about the things that the unresolved issues oftentimes that parents are bringing into parenting that impact on how they're raising their children. And I started with my own story in terms of learning, having to learn some things myself. But you got to get the book in order to hear my side of that story. All right. So, who wants to share their chapter? We're not going to talk about the chapter, everything that's in it, but just kind of give some pointers and why people need to get this book. Don't all shout at the same time.
There we go. I couldn't find my unmute button, so I apologize.
Okay, that's okay.
I thought we were going to play rock, paper, scissors there for a minute. But I alluded to my chapter a little bit before. It's really creating those vulnerable conversations. I think parents get in their heads I have to be perfect. I have to be stoic. I have to rise above in times of chaos or grief. I have to hold it all together for everybody else. And I think that that's doing our children a disservice. I think that that's not allowing them to see the grieving process, to see the hurt and understand that they can have those emotions and that they can handle them, and they can allow them to come out in various forms within reason, right? We don't want it to be anger and dangerous and things like that, but they can express that hurt. And I think as parents, we need to be able to have those conversations with them to let them show that during a divorce, we're hurting, that we're grieving, but that it's going to be okay to show them, allow those emotions out, and we'll work through this healing process together. Because it's not just a parent going through a divorce, it's a family going through divorce.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And what you're saying is so important. Parents, children need to see us as real, our and we need to be transparent with our children. Now, I'm not saying that we insinuate our kids in our grown up stuff. That's a no-no.
Exactly.
But being able to let them understand I'm hurting too, and I understand how you're feeling and those kinds of things. I think that's just so important. So you need to get the book so that you can listen and hear and read what Joy has said about that, because that is so important. So important. All right, Kimberly.
That would be me.
Yes, that would be you.
Yeah, so just in terms of talking about education, and I know that when I talk to people about education, everybody and their grandmother, it seems, has an issue with the education system, and has an issue with how things are done, rightfully so, in the education system, whatever that might be. And with all of the parents that I've talked to, with all of the people that have come forward and said something, there's one commonality that I notice. No matter what political views people have, no matter what religious views people have, no matter what sort of private views people might have, the vast majority of those people have the same problems with the education system. And so to me, seeing how everyone is so united over all of those issues that really matter in terms of the future, that like the children are like our children are our future,
Yes, they are.
and seeing how people are ready to galvanize, for lack of a better word, and make a difference and take that step forward in making a change, is really encouraging. And
Just
so
thought, I'm sorry. Just
no,
out
that's
of
okay.
just out of curiosity, what was the threat and the issue that most parents have, regardless of economics, regardless of religion, regardless of politics, regardless of race, regardless of any of that stuff? What's that common thread?
So there's a couple that I would say, but I can put them around the topic of curriculum. A lot of parents are not comfortable with the curriculum. And now here's where it gets interesting, because those reasons differ as to why the parents are not comfortable with the curriculum. But it's a common thread that parents are not comfortable with the curriculum, that parents are not comfortable with the age, I should maybe say the age development that curriculum is being taught at, for various reasons and for various subjects.
Yes.
But it always comes down to the curriculum, the
Yes.
content.
Yes. And is there one more? Is there another one?
Yeah, I would say that one. And then I would say the other one is more of a feeling. A lot of parents, and rightfully so, this is not a jab at teachers, a lot of parents feel that their children are not getting all of the attention that they should be getting. And that's not to say anything against the teachers, because teachers are one person.
Right.
With 30 children or 35 children, it is unrealistic to expect
Yes.
that your child's going to be able to get all of that, right?
Right.
And so the lack of support for teachers, the lack of people, I would say, is another concern, because that bleeds into your child not getting the attention that they need, and hence falling behind or having other sorts of complications that arise from that.
And you know, where teachers are concerned, but I think parents really need to come to terms with the fact that they are their child's first teacher.
Yes.
And oftentimes, it's been my experience, oftentimes parents are placing too much responsibility on teachers when raising their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I kind of talk about, some things that I did as a parent to help instill confidence and greatness in my son, so that he was able to deal with bullying and all those other kinds of things. That stuff starts at home.
Mm-hmm.
Sally, I'm going to ask you to chime in. I know you didn't write, you weren't a writer in the book, but I know you can share your thoughts and feelings.
I was a Sunday school teacher for 30 plus years, so I dealt with children and helped. I have a daughter that I raised. My daughter's a 5th grade elementary school teacher. So yeah, I read these chapters, and it's really important that we do look at the education of our children and what we want our children to know, to instill those beliefs in themselves and have that self-confidence and self-worth, that they believe in themselves and they want to go out and conquer the world, and to keep those dreams alive in their heads, because so many times as we grow up, those dreams are gone, right? They're taken away from us. So how do we put those dreams back into our children's heads, even as adults, when our children are adults? My daughter's an adult now, and I say to her all the time, what do you want? Let's go after it. Go after it. So I just love this book. I love the concept of this book and all the authors in it, how they each have a little different piece of the puzzle, and it all comes together in one book and makes it whole, right?
And yes, and I was, as I was listening to Kimberly and Joy, we've got things that will address the issues of divorce and being a divorcee, being a single mom and divorce, and having to deal with co-parenting and the communications with their children. And then we got Kimberly, who's dealing with homeschoolers and the impact that parents have on homeschooling, and also the tutoring situation. And let's face it, our school system is broken. That's the bottom line. It is broken. And I don't know, homeschooling, there's some controversy about that, but in my opinion, it could be such a enhancement to a child, because you can expose them to so much more than they are exposed sitting in a classroom. And so, I know parents that are homeschooling, and they take their kids to other countries so that they can see how other people live, and that I think that is wonderful. That is awesome. And so I do have a commercial that I need to play. So let me do that, and we will be back.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products, because Mama knows what you need.
Actually, that's a very appropriate
I was just gonna
commercial.
say that's quite the commercial,
Mama
and you chose that
knows.
one well.
Mama knows what you
Right?
need. I'm telling you. And in this book, we show you that mama knows what you need. And but the products, let me just say a little bit about these products. These products are awesome. They smell great, and we're talking shampoos, conditioners, growth serums, all kinds of different products, and they're for all ethnicities. They're for boys and girls, men and women. And like she said, mama knows what you need. So check her out at mamaknowsproducts.com. All right. I have a couple more commercials, but let's talk some more. All right. Now, I am excited about this because parents need to understand their role. And one of the things, talking about the various parental styles and the impact that those styles have on children is also an issue. I think I talk about that in the book. I don't remember, but I think I do. But anyway, there's different parenting styles that really can impact on a child. And I actually would like for you guys to kind of talk about your thoughts on parenting styles and what you're seeing in your coaching businesses and what's coming through with that. So we're just having a conversation, okay?
Well, I'll just talk on my growing up, and my mother was very selfless. My mother was the oldest of 9, and she took care of everybody to the detriment of her own health. She never took care of herself, and it's showing now. So she's 80 and she's got Alzheimer's and she's got a lot of health issues because she never took care of herself growing, through all these years. And so I looked at that, and I'm like, I'm heading in that same direction. And that's what kind of sparked my change. Was I need to do something differently with my life than my mother did. And a lot of the stuff she did was awesome. She was a great mom. She loved us. She took care of us. But some of the things that she instilled in me that are like deep down embedded in me are not good, because it's to the point where I feel bad taking care of myself if if there are other people that need me. And everybody always needs me, because it seems like everyone always wants a piece of you, right?
Yes.
So it's like, how do I find the time to take care of myself when I could spend 40 hours a day taking care of everybody else?
But that self-care is so very important. My mother was like your mom. The difference is she died at the age of 44. And that's because she took care of everybody else. She carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. My mother was a minister's wife. And so not only was she taking care of family, I can't tell you how many days and nights members were coming to our house and pouring their hearts out to my mom. And the thing is, she never shared anything that anybody ever said to her with anybody else. So, in addition to taking care of her family, she was holding all this other stuff inside. And she died of cancer, and both my sisters, they were the same way. They cared about, and I care about people, but I'm not one to worry. Okay. It's like, if I can't change it, why am I going to worry about it? If I can change it, why am I going to worry about it? But all three of them worried about everything and everybody and didn't have that self-care. Both my sisters died before they saw the age of 60, and I'll be 70 in November, and I think not worrying has a lot to do with it, and not being on any medications and all that kind of stuff, but being able to recognize that self-care. And I'm sure you've talked with Joy about her yoga and that kind of stuff, because that's a part of that self-care and spending time with yourself and intentionally making time for yourself. It makes us better parents. It makes us better in our work. It makes us better overall, because if you don't take care of you, who's going to take care of you? So it's just very important. And you also made another valid point. Oftentimes, parents are parents the way their parents were.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, there's a lot of that those unresolved issues and that kind of stuff comes into play. As a matter of fact, I do a thing on 21 misconceived behaviors. And out of those 21 misconceived behaviors, almost every last one of them are caused by our childhood. Almost every last one of them are caused by how we were raised. And so that's a point that's so important. And parents need to understand. So, Sally, I hope you are taking care of yourself. And I also say, even though your mom may have Alzheimer's right now, it's a blessing that she's still with you. That is such a blessing.
Yeah.
So love on your mother.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. All right. Joy, what are your thoughts about parental styles and what you're seeing in your coaching?
So it kind of goes to one of the things that you were saying on how the parenting styles have changed. And I think one of the issues that I see is that parents are kind of taking that pendulum to the other end. I see a lot of parents, especially after divorce, they do this parallel parenting. About 50% do parallel parenting. You run your house your way, I run my house my way. So there's no consistency. Dad's taking them out for McDonald's and pizza. Mom's making them like homemade applesauce, and they're in bed by 7. Like there's this inconsistency between the houses, and it confuses the kids.
Yes.
So the more they can get on the same page, co-parent well together, it's going to benefit the kids. And sometimes they do it on purpose. Sometimes they do it because they don't know how. Dads aren't maybe as good in the kitchen or don't feel as confident in the kitchen. So they do the drive-through. So it just really depends on who the parent is. But I see just this inconsistency in parenting when they're in separate houses. And it's really not in the best interest of the child.
No, it's not. And it also sounds like a lot of that could be the permissive parent, where, the dad wants to be their child's friend. Therefore, they're going to do everything they can to appease that child while that child is with them. Mom, on the other hand, she may be the disciplinarian and having to be the one that's carrying the big stick. And when you've got that kind of dynamic happening, it can impact and it can confuse a child. It can very much confuse a child. And so having that happy medium of being an authoritative parent, where you're nurturing, supportive, communicating with them, encouraging them, and looking at and seeing, because you also talked, Kimberly, I think you said, we lose, maybe it was you, Sally, how we lose that dream, that talent. I think it was you, Sally. As we go through life, we lose our dreams, the dreams we may have had as a child, the dreams we may have had, and you asking your daughter, well, what do you want to do? Oftentimes, if parents can begin to nurture, identify the gifts that are in their children, and children display their gifts early on. They display those gifts early on. And so being able to nurture those gifts and being able to build on those gifts is one of the ways that will help make for confident, self-assured children. All right, I'm going to shut up. I know I'm talking too much. Okay, Kimberly.
I don't think you're talking too much, Vera. I quite enjoy listening to you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So the question is, what are you seeing in the way of parenting styles in the parents that you're working with, and just kind of over in general? And I know no one's the same. You know, in parents, there's 4 different parenting styles, so I'm sure you see a gamut.
Yes, I do see a variety of parenting styles. Um, and that's actually one of the biggest arguments, right? In the parenting world is like, oh, which parenting style is better, right? Um, I would like to say that there's no right answer for that. Every child is different, right? Every child is going to react differently to certain things. Some children, you may need to be a little bit more authoritative with them in certain situations, right? Some kids, you never really have to go outside of gentle parenting because their personality doesn't require that, right? Now, one thing I have found that I would say is something that's really important for healthy development, mentally, emotionally, physically, intellectually, is having good role models. And I'm going to go so far as to say, for boys, especially for young boys, it is so important for them to see strong male role models. And by strong, I don't necessarily mean bodybuilders. I mean
Right.
positive. I mean
Mentally,
positive, right?
emotionally.
Mentally and emotionally and physically capable men. They need to see that. Now, Joy is specializes in, split families. So sometimes it's not always possible to have the dad around 24/7, right? But that doesn't mean that your child can't still have positive or meaningful role models that are male, right, in their life. It doesn't have to necessarily be a father. Of course, I will
Absolutely.
say it should be, but sometimes that's not always the ideal situation, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I was a single mother of a male child.
right.
And his dad was in another state. And I mean, there's a whole nother story behind all that. But one of the things that I did, I got him involved with like Big Brothers, and so he had a
Hmm.
mentor, and I got him involved and making sure there were strong males around to that were role models for him. But I do
Hmm.
want to also say that I think fathers are just as important, if not, in my opinion, not more, in a girl's life. You know,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
because I used to drive Uber, and I can't tell you how many times I would pick up young girls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning going to see a guy. And because of what I do, of course, I insinuated myself into their business, and I would ask them, what kind of relationship do you have with your dad? And invariably, almost every last one of them would say they had a poor relationship with their dad or they had no relationship with their dad. And in those cases, they were out there looking for love in all the wrong places. And so, fathers are just as important in a girl's life as they are in a boy's life. And because I raised my son as a single mom, you talked to Joy, you talked about men not being able to cook and that kind of, my son cooks, cleans, does laundry, all that stuff, because I worked, so he had to take on responsibilities, which is another thing that parents need to do. Don't coddle your children to the point where they don't have responsibilities. My son started vacuuming when he was 4 years old. I would pick up the pieces, the big pieces, but he was vacuuming. He started cooking when he was 9, and he loves to cook. He started doing his own laundry when he was in middle school because he didn't like the way I did it. And so I said, do it yourself. And so and I'm not tooting my horn or anything like that, but I know it gave him confidence, being able to do things and and with me working, and then I was also going to school, there were times when he was fixing dinner. I was like, yes, absolutely. And it was great. And so parents of male children, make them well-rounded. Please make them well-rounded, because that is so important. Yes,
But
Joy.
the same for girls.
Yes.
My daughter can change a flat tire. She would mow the grass. She would be able to, do things in the house to fix, small little projects. Just like my son, like you're saying, would cook dinner, do his laundry, all of those crossover gender roles. And I think that there's such a training that we provide at home as parents to be able to give them that well-rounded education. So bravo.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's like my hero statement. When I hear parents really want to make sure that their kids are independent. I don't want a 30-year-old living in my house.
Really? Absolutely.
My kids are in college, and I moved this month, and I launched my daughter to college. And I keep saying, I'm like, I told them where I live, because somebody's going to need money. Somebody's going to need food eventually. So they know where I am, but I'm not home anymore. I'm in a new place.
Yes.
So they left, and Mama moved the nest.
I know that's right.
They know how to do what they need to do, and this just gives them the independence to work it out. And I love
absolutely that. And they learn how to accept responsibility.
Yes.
So often, and we've got parents that don't accept responsibility. That play the blame game. If it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for her, my life wouldn't be this way. No, if it wasn't for us and the choices that we make, our lives would. And that was a lesson I had to learn. And that was one of the lessons that I put in the book. I had to learn that, because after my marriage, I was bitter, and I was saying, if it wasn't for him, and then someone said to me, no, Vera, if it wasn't for you and the choices you made, and so, but by me being able to acknowledge that, I was able to teach my son to do the same and accept responsibility for your actions, your behaviors, and the consequences for them. That is so important. But there are some adults that need to learn that. Anyway, Kim, you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on the note of this book in particular, right? We're talking about all of these things about building self-sufficient and building independent adults. Teaching them how to do those things gives them, in the end, like you were saying, you want to teach them responsibility, accountability, you want to teach them how to do multiple things, right? Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to change a tire, but I can fix certain things. Right? But learning how to do things that are not necessarily within your quote-unquote gender role, and even learning how to do things within your quote-unquote gender role, is a positive thing for your confidence.
Yes.
And isn't that what you're trying to do, is raise a child who's confident?
Absolutely.
From my experience as an educational professional, and even just as a human being, when you have a child who's confident, you have a child who's willing to learn.
Yes.
In life, in school,
yes.
in whatever the situation.
Yes.
Confidence is key.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And it lessens the burden placed on teachers, because, the child is coming into school already confident, willing to speak their mind and express. It's so important. That's why what parents do at home is very, very, very important. All right, I do have another commercial. So let me play that, and then we'll come back as soon as I can find it. Joy 365. It is a devotional book for joy restoration. The visionary is Vanessa Blackwell, and you can contact her at vrblackwell@gmail.com. If you are interested in maybe writing a devotional, she's doing 365 days of devotion, and she wants 365 people writing in that devotional. And I just wrote my chapter today. and so if you're interested in encouraging and uplifting and helping people understand how to restore their joy in the midst of whatever they're going through, then contact Vanessa Blackwell so that you can write a chapter in this book at vrblackwell@gmail.com. All right. All right. Well, listen, can you believe we only have like 4 minutes left? What I'm going to do, I'm going to give each of you enough time to just kind of share some closing remarks. I'm going to end, before I play my theme song, I'm going to play Action Takers again. I love that commercial. I really do. And so, Sally, we're going to start with you, since you are the visionary, and then Joy, and then Kim, okay? Oh, is she frozen? You there? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
We are.
All right.
My internet went down for a minute.
Oh, okay.
So, I just want to share that, tell your story, get your story out there. Don't keep it inside of you, and find a way to get your story, because even if you just sit down and write in a journal, get your story outside of you, and figure out a way to share your story with the world, because that's where you're going to make the impact.
All right. All right. Awesome. Joy.
As an empty nester and divorced mom, I'm missing already time with my children. And all I'm going to say is, don't, just think that these days are here forever. They are short and they are just beautiful. Put down the phones, put down the devices, really talk with your kids. Have those beautiful moments of singing in the car, playing board games, the stuffed animals, the Barbies, the dinosaurs, the tea parties. Do it all. Just really be present with your children, and you will not miss those devices. You're going to miss that time with your kids.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Okay, Kim.
Yep, you're muted. You're muted.
Unmute yourself.
Whoops.
That's okay.
Okay. From the top. One thing that I always emphasize to everybody that I talk to, regardless of what the education journey looks like for your children, whether you're homeschooling them, whether you're looking at whether they're in public school, whether you have them in some sort of alternative.
And she froze. Okay.
You have to be able.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry.
Did I disappear?
Yeah, you froze. All right, but anyway.
Okay.
You left off with whatever you're homeschooling and all that. Okay, so go ahead.
So whatever you choose, whatever the education situation is with your children, you cannot embark on that journey by yourself. You cannot embark on that journey alone, whatever it is with your kids, because it really does take a village to raise a child. There's a reason that you have teachers. There's a reason that you have daycare providers. There's a reason that you have all of these people who are involved in helping you to raise your child. you want to find the people that are what I like to refer to as your tribe, that can help you raise your child in the way that you, as their parent, know is the best for them.
Amen. You all have given some great nuggets to end with. Everything that each of you said. Write your story. Tell your story. Everybody has a story. And we don't go through stuff to keep it inside. We go through stuff so that we can help other people with their lives. So share your story. So contact Sally at Action Takers. As a matter of fact, let me pull her. We're running over, but contact Sally at actiontakerspublishing.com/Sally, and let her talk you into sharing your story. You can contact Kimberly, and I'm going to throw her information down here in the chat, in the scrolling. You can contact her. If you want to find out more about the homeschooling things that she's doing, contact her. If your child needs to be tutored, contact her. And then Joy, if you are going through divorce, if you are contemplating divorce, you want to contact Joy and let her help you through that process. Well, listen, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I really have enjoyed you being here, and you've given some nuggets, some insights. And again, the book is called No Problem Parenting: Resources and Stories That Create Confidence and Connections. Well, listen, God bless. Have a great, great evening. And I'm going to share Take Action, and then and have a nice holiday weekend. So God bless.
The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about